And after that, we will discuss all the elements regarding and involved with the project. Okay. Thank you very much. So let's begin with all the elements of virtual production. But before that, I have good news. 2025 will be the year that virtual production becomes a democratic way of doing films and content. And that reminds me of 2007 when Red Digital Cameras was born. If you remember back then, um, they developed a camera named Red One. And that was really a revolution because before when digital cameras were really expensive. So I think that's exactly what's happening this year with virtual production. Before 2024, 2023, virtual production was a technique that was used mainly by AAA studios. And it was expensive, it was difficult, and it was used, of course, for Disney movies and series such as Mandalorian and Warner Brothers, The Batman, etc., etc. And we're talking about high budget movies like or series like 80 million plus. Now, fortunately, the workflow that we will analyze and we will study here, and the pricing of the elements are more affordable, much more affordable this year. So I think we will be able to develop all kinds of content for indie producers, for content producers, for low budget, mid budget productions. And precisely this is part of our documentary we did. We did a documentary and we screened that documentary in Cannes Film Festival. It's named Magic and Freedom. And precisely this talks about virtual production as a magical tool because VFX is magical. You can do anything with VFX. The problem with traditional VFX and green screens is that it's too expensive, too slow sometimes, and it's not that close to all kinds of production. You need a special budget, special infrastructures, special workflow that is not that accessible for everyone. Traditional VFX. Fortunately, virtual production, as you will see today, is pretty direct. It's much faster. it's much optimized and cheaper than traditional VFX, and you can do anything. That's why it's magical, and that gives you freedom because if it's of course more affordable, it permits you, it allows you to, you know, experiment much more. And experimentation in our industry is freedom. So that's pretty interesting. Uh, Back in the day, of course, making, for instance, a sci-fi movie, independent sci-fi movie, it was restricted. You can do that in a, you know, small place like inside a spaceship. That was the classical indie sci-fi thing. Or was very expensive. And now you can create whole worlds, whole ecosystems in virtual production, very accessible and pretty fast. Same thing with difficult scenes like war scenes like the one we're looking now. And that's great news because we will explain all the advantages of the technique and the workflow. And we will invite you to imagine all we can achieve with this kind of thing. So let's talk a little bit about different elements. Of course, the main one, the more attractive one, of course, is the LED wall. And you have several specs of LED walls. This LED wall is 30 feet by 12 feet-ish, like 10 meters by 4. It's 2.6 pitch. It's a very nice LED screen, and it's manufactured by our amazing partners, Glowshine. This studio is part of this manufacturing company. We, as a production company, and specialize in virtual production, partnership with Glowshine, and we decided to set up this amazing volume and work together into this workflow that I will explain today. So that's the main part, and it's very important because, of course, not only is a display, it's also a lighting source. It's a light source. And it's a light source of what we call as technicians global lighting, global illumination, because it's the environment. It's very similar. The reaction to the camera is very similar to having to being in an actual location. You know, it's very powerful. Actually, right now I think it's around 8% the power. Imagine that. So it's pretty powerful. And of course, it's very flexible because you can put like a ceiling or even side walls, and you can use that lighting. For instance, we can assemble a couple of side walls, and then you can have immersive lighting and reflections, and we have the grid ready, the trusses ready, and we can hand, of course, a ceiling. We have a lot of panels over there. We can be pretty flexible to set up any kind of configuration. And the classical advantages, against green screen is that, of course, with green screen, you have terrible spilling. I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but the spill is the green color that reflects and affects everything, and affects, of course, the actors, and affects, of course, the set dressing. If you go and watch a couple of making ofs of Spider-Man, Superman, you see very few props and set dressing because they have a lot of problems, especially with reflections, with metals, and with of course, glass and crystals, all that kind of stuff is variable between green screen. So they usually, even the props and the furniture and the set dressing, they decide to put that in a CGI technique afterwards because of the spilling. Remember, if you remember a couple of making of, you remember a very empty green screen. Remember everything empty. So that's challenging because, of course, the actors are not comfortable with that. They need to act against references such as weird guys dressed on green, remember? All dressed on green, and they have these little tennis balls like to do the reference around. So the actors can, interact with the environment that they don't see. Of course, the other problem with green screen is that post-production is usually a nightmare. I know you have been in that process, but rotoscoping, the problems with the hair, the problems with glass, the reflection, refractions, is usually a nightmare. And you get this result that if you don't have the super high-end professionals that handle that kind of technique, you will have, mixed results, usually, not great quality results because it's so challenging. And that's why movies with a lot of CGI and a lot of green screen takes a lot of time post-production. And if you stay to read the credits in a movie with a lot of VFX, you will see a lot of people, going and going for 10 minutes. VFX, rotoscoping, green screen, because it's so cumbersome. It's so difficult. You need a lot of technicians. So with virtual production, you don't need that because it happens in real time, and that's very important because you need to do a lot, of course, a very precise pre-production to achieve these kind of results. But you have a lot of them. So we talked about the LED wall and the advantages. The other very important part of the process or the element of the process is tracking. We have two systems here. This one on another. You don't need the two at the same time. We are displaying them for you to know them. This is up. We are using just the Mars system. The name of this is Mars. The name of this is Moses. And basically, this is the sensors that gives all the data, that feeds the data to the computer. So the computer can know exactly where the camera is in the body. We call this the body. The virtual production studio, we call it the body. So it gives the information so the background can react precisely in 3D against the movement of the camera. The name of that effect technically is 3D parallax, full 3D parallax. Just to of course have all the information for the background to react in full 3D. So that's the other element. The third element that's very, very important is the computer. The computer should be, as you know, very powerful. I don't know if you play games or if you're gamers yourself, but if you know to have a gaming machine that has all the characteristics of ray tracing, reflections, this and that, we call the epic quality, running at 4K in 60 frames per second is very difficult. You need a very, very expensive computer to do that. And in cinema, you need more quality than that because usually the LED walls are at least between 5 and 25K resolution. We as a production company help to operate virtual production studio in Dallas, Texas, named Trilogy. It's a huge volume. It's around 157 feet by 27 feet, imagine that. So it's like almost 6 times this and twice. So the pitch is 1.9, so it's finer, it's higher resolution. So the resolution we have there is 25K. Imagine if it's difficult to play a video, a 2D video in 25K, imagine playing a full 3D universe in 25K. There is no computer in the market that can handle 25K of a full 3D said. So you ask me, then how do you do it? With an array of computers, like a render farm, parallel array. We call it a multi-node parallel media server. And the investor spent about $500,000 in just that array of computers. So just for you to know, the investment is not linear, it's exponential. When you need 4 times, let's say 16K, the price of a media server is not 4 times that of the 4K. It's not 4 by 4 to 16. It goes much higher because of the specs characteristics and the way you need to sync all the NVIDIA cards and this and that, and even temperature, you know, when you have like several, you have power challenges and temperature challenges and this and that, and it becomes pretty complex. So yeah, just it's very important for you to know that. But fortunately, we have several tricks to handle what we call a single node solution like this. Even when you have bigger ones, we have several tricks. So one computer with a new 5090 NVIDIA card, or even with a new 4090 NVIDIA card, that's around $2,000 the card plus the computer. So we're talking about $5,000 computer. That's very affordable for what you can do. You can handle even bigger than this, like even twice this size with one node. We have the tricks to do that. I will explain how. So that's why I mentioned that it this year became more affordable. Welcome. Welcome. So that's the third element, the computer. Another element, of course, lighting. This is kind of traditional, and we will discuss the workflow between the practical lighting and the match with the digital lighting. We will elaborate on that in a moment. And the other element, of course, is special effects. Remember that special effects is different to visual effects. Special, we usually call special effects the practical ones, the physical ones. And it's very important to stress out that sometimes people make the mistake to think that special effects are only for sci-fi, fantasy, or this and that. I think special effects should be in every production because you need to have atmosphere. And when you have atmosphere, you need haze, you need fog, you need wind, and in any production. And that atmosphere actually is special effects. So you should be aware of that. And the final element, and most important element, is people. You need the right technicians, because if you don't have the right technicians, you won't be able to get quality results. And we will discuss how we organize our staff, our crew, in a specific way of working, workflow and pipeline. So now we know all the elements, and I want you to see all the elements in action. If you have any question, you can, of course, interrupt me. Feel free to interrupt me whenever you want. And let's have fun.
Question. You have a question?
Question?
Don't be shy.
So for this particular system, do you have something like a deck link feeding this feed here? Like, can you explain the exact kind of setup for how your signal is being output from the computer?
Yeah, of course. Very straightforward, because it's what we call a single node. When it's single node, you can take a single node as exactly as a huge TV. That's it. This is a huge, I think it's around 5K, if you imagine that, because it's 2.6. if this size, you set up this size in 1.5, for instance, it will almost double, so it will be an 8K TV. You know, its resolution is the size of the LEDs and the distance between the LEDs. But this is pretty straightforward. You have a computer there, and then if you have a long distance, you transform your HDMI signal to SDI signal, 12G, what we call, you're familiar with that. If you're close enough, like this is close enough, you can use very high quality HDMI 2.0, at least fiber optic, connection, and it goes back to a processor. The processor is like there's another computer that controls all the fans in parallel. It's very important to control them in parallel, because if you serialize it, then you will have like I don't know if you're familiar with scan rate, but like putting that, you should go as parallel as possible. If not, you will have problems with flicker. So the processor back there is pretty powerful. There are two main brands in the market, or three. One of the main one and the most expensive one, and it's really good, is named Brompton. You're familiar with that. It's an English brand. A very popular, very high quality one is Novastar. And Novastar has a sub brand that's really cool for controlling color, this and that, name Pixelkey. And there's another Megapixel is another, I don't remember, because I just worked with Novastar and Brompton, because are the main players. And that's basically it in terms of displaying. You're displaying to a huge TV, and I stress out, this is in a single node configuration. If you have multi-nodes configuration, you need another software to distribute. There's a very famous software named Disguise. It's really expensive, but it's used to distribute between multiple computers and multiple screens, like a video wall, like a super big, huge video wall, composed of several TVs per se. And the process is very expensive, because it should be pretty fast in parallel and totally synced, because you are using full sync and full calibrated. All the colors should be calibrated between each one of them. So when you get more than one node, it gets pretty difficult. It gets much more expensive, exponentially expensive. Fortunately, we have tricks, as I said, to handle everything in a big format with one node now in 2025. In 2024, there were like research for that, and 2023 was impossible. So that's one of the reasons why it became much more affordable, because you can handle big formats with just one node. That's good. And NVIDIA also is helping with that, with quality and speed of the new RTX cards, of course.
Did that mostly come down to like an Unreal update, or what was the thing in 2025?
Oh yeah, updates in processors, updates in the speed of the LED wall itself, updates on Unreal, that's very important. Unreal 5.5 is awesome, especially with handling the new trackers. It's awesome. And so yeah, everyone is updating at the same time. Unfortunately, there is a lot of communication now between brands. If you go to NAB, there's the Virtual Production Summit, and in Canton Festival also you have Summit. So everyone is talking to everyone. And I don't know if you're familiar with SEMTI, the Society of Motion Picture and Television standard, and they're trying to coordinate everyone with the updates. So we are part of the board, so we are really happy because it's happening pretty fast. It's the same thing with, remember, back in the day with the codecs, to optimize the codecs and then to deliver raw video and all that kind of new stuff that we were as cinematographers really excited to have finally something near to 35 millimeters quality, the film cut quality. That's the same. So exciting moments right now. This is an exciting game, precisely because of that. Yeah. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, just to be maybe more specific, if you were to, for instance, have maybe a multi-node system where you were separating maybe a smaller pixel pitch screen into, say, quadrants, you know, so you have maybe 4 nodes in the system. If you were to feed one quadrant per, you know, per machine, per card, are you traditionally in your usual setup, is your output going from the GPU into, say, a capture card, from the capture card to fiber, from fiber to the Nova Star, or is there some
No.
different pathway?
Well, now there's a new standard that I'm not familiar because I'm not an engineer, technician, I'm a producer. It's like, I think 70-21-10. That's precisely a system to communicate all the ecosystem for multi-node. I'm not familiar with it. So traditionally, it's just the output of each one of the cards, but they should be linked. And there's a standard with the higher end NVIDIA cards named NVLink. Remember? And there's a series, the new series is the ADA A6000 series. And it has the capability of internally syncing.
Is that like SLI, like running multiple, graphics cards together?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Multiple cards together. And the actual standard for that is NVLink for NVIDIA Link. And of course, they don't want to cannibalize to you know, because an A6000 ADA, the cheaper one is around $10,000 the card. And the performance is very similar to a 4090. The difference is that the more expensive card, you're able to link it. And the 4090, you are not able to link it, supposedly. But with new standard, the 70-21-10, you can. So it's a game changer. It's in alpha tests right now. And our amazing engineer in Texas, named Roman, he's from Austria, he was able to with 4090s. So the new array, the old array, and I mean old, like 1 year ago, it's an expensive array of $500,000, $500,000. And then this year, well, last year, at the end of last year, he was able to set up multi-node workstations with traditional, affordable 4090s under the SEMT standard. I don't know how he did that, but it's a huge game changer. So yes, you can now. I don't know exactly how, to be honest. But that's part of the beauty of the research, you know. Maybe if you need, we can have a, you know, a conversation with our engineer and he can, you know, share some of his insights on that, okay? Pretty technical, pretty, okay? Any other question before we play cinema? No? Okay, sorry. So let's do this. And we will explain a couple of very interesting things. I need a volunteer. We have this volunteer, and you will be the cameraman. Of course, she's a war correspondent, she's a journalist, and you're in a war zone. Closer, please, and nearest to the wall, please, a little bit. Yeah, you because of the height, okay. A little bit closer, please. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So, we will move and watch the perspective. Oh, I mean, here we go. Do you see the perspective? So the perspective matches pretty well, even with the floor, if you watch it. No. Okay. So one important thing, if you watch the TV, even the aspect radio and the stretch of the TV, and I mean the camera output, is different that if you see directly the wall. Do you see that? Do you figure it? Check the, like the aspect radio is a little bit more stretched there, and you see it right there. And when I move, it feels a little bit like stretching directly with your eyes, and it looks perfect on camera. That effect is named dynamic force perspective, and it's awesome. Are you familiar with force perspective, the technique? And the force perspective is that when you build a speck, the things that are farther away are smaller. So you can, in a less space, you can, simulate more perspective and more size. And Unreal is capable of doing that dynamically. When you move the camera, it will move everything around. So it will feel a little bit like rubber band or something. It will stretch, adapt. So that's very important because as you can see, I have a movement and I have an area that's about 15 feet. I'm moving and I'm pointing my camera in around 15 feet of screen. However, I can simulate a lot of blocks in the background. That's because of the force perspective. What that means that with a small LED wall like this, in the small, side of things, you can simulate a lot of space. You know what I mean? Because you have dynamic force perspective. Yeah, let's try that. Let me use the cables are fitting. Let's move much faster and much longer. I'm afraid of the cables. Can you please help me with this? Because I will speed up. Yeah, now go very, very down. I'm sorry. Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, now. So I will of course comment on this. There's another technique very interesting named set extension. If I put a green screen over there, I'm able with the help of software such as Asymmetry or always Hecos, do set extension in real. So it will, do the green screen keying in real time. If my camera is off limits, it will fill out all the half with the rest of the scene. So that's awesome. So even when you have a smaller screen, you can do a lot of set extension. Of course, your limit is the actions of your talent inside. You can, get away with that kind of, off limits of the actor. But it's not advisable to move the actor away. It's just for protection. So yeah. Okay, now we will play with another nice feature, of course, because the set is real time. We have control of everything in it. So we will try to simulate an real-time execution with a cube. So ready, guys? Everyone ready? Let's try it. Okay, I will do the countdown and 3, 2, 1, explosion! So that's really nice, of course. We can do it again. We can try it again. It was pretty cool, right? But the amazing thing is that you can have any kind of cues in you. And of course, you can make that queue automatic with DMX systems. Actually, we are setting up DMX, is not ready yet. But for instance, if you put this blower, in the DMX blower and fog machines, with, and flamethrowers with DMX, then he can trigger everything, all the elements, the physical ones and the digital ones with just one key. Because the DMX protocol will send the signal to the physical, devices to make the explosion happen. Also with all kinds of lights, you can control, of course, all the robotics in the lights. You can, of course, force a strobe in that explosion. So you can, it's kind of strobe with the actors, etc. We didn't have the time to set up the DMX make for the next workshop we will do. But it's very, very interesting how you can control all the DMX so you can make everything automatic. That's awesome. Okay, we will try that again. A little bit more fog everywhere, please. Okay, ready, guys? I'm just implementing a bit. I will push a little bit. There we go. Okay, let's have some fog here and there. And there we go. Another tree, I'm sorry. 3, 2, 1, explosion. Okay. So another thing I want you to notice is how the fog, the actual physical fog, matches very well with the background. And this is because the optical characteristics of the LED wall. Of course, when you have the optical characteristics of light behind the fog, then it matches very well. And it's exactly the other way around of the traditional VFX with green screen. Because usually the VFX supervisor says, please no fog, no haze, because it's so difficult to keep. It's so difficult to keep, we will put the fog after in digital. You get that. And usually, of course, the digital fog is not as good as the actual real fog. So you don't have that problem here. Do you see the fog? That's the haze and the fog. Look, it looks almost like it's coming from the actual place. It matches so well. Same thing with perspective. So if we look at the debris in the floor, look how it matches the perspective. So it pulls your mind about what's there and what's not. Even when the floor that we have now doesn't match the color of the set extension of the digital one, it feels like you are in the street. There's like the curve and then you have the street. Your brain, interprets that because it says it should be a road. The darker part, it should be a road because I saw that before. A lighter curve and a darker road. So it fits, it works. Okay. Any question? Exactly. Can you do that immediately? Move, reverse shot, move around. That's it. Yeah, we change, of course, the foreground elements. Let's change the foreground elements, guys. Everyone, rearrange whatever you want. No, good. And one question from Leah was, if you do all of that, you need to calibrate everything? No, it's calibrate from the beginning to match the whole universe. So we don't need to recalibrate anything. It will, the force perspective in the universe will work immediately. Because you beforehand told the system the distances that he calibrated with an actual measurement and he did the scale proportions of the actual physical place with the digital one. But you need to do that just once. Also, you need to calibrate the lens for the distortion, this and that. But also, you do that just once. And after that, if you are full 3D like this, then you're able to look, it took 2 minutes, literally. And let's play with it. Now you will walk like you're surprised, like, whoa, what happened here? Okay, on my cue. Okay, 3, 2, 1, cue. Lower, please. You're surprised. Again, much lower, because you're pretty surprised. You're in shock, so you're like, you're scared, you are slow. Maybe a sniper around there, somewhere. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Lower. Yeah, like that. Look at that. I can move my camera and it's calibrated. You see? And if I move faster, go back. Now go back and I will forward. Exactly. And then I can even do like faster motions with the camera. Not physically synchronized, but calibrated. It's a little bit different. Okay. So, yeah, but you can synchronize it. That's a good question. For instance, the problem here is that if I change the depth of field, the way the lenses focus in the distance, of course I will get the real one until I get to the LED wall. But you have a small sensor that you can put here, like the follow focus the other way. And when the sensor, the gear turns, it will send the metadata of the focus distance to the unreal scene. So then you can have different focal lengths inside the virtual world. That's amazing. We cannot do that right now because it's not set up. No, we didn't set up the different focal length. It's easy for you or not? Not right now, right? Okay. Okay. So, but you know what I mean? So you can put any kind of sensors on the lens. Even you can, of course, have a sensor for even the iris, the exposure. It's not that necessary because it works directly, look. But if you have any situation, you can, of course. But the main thing is focus, the focus length. So you can send digital data of your focus length to the virtual world. Okay, so you can match all the follow focus precisely of the different distances, focal distances. Okay, is that clear?
If we have extra time at the end, could you share what the process of calibrating for distortion on this looks like?
I can send you a video because I'm not a technician. It's kind of difficult to do that. You use charts. You use a physical chart and a digital chart that matches, and you should, tweak and detail your virtual camera to match the response of the physical card. You know what I mean? Same with color. You have the physical color chart and you have the digital color chart, and you should change the color to match the physical and digital. It's very basic, it's very primitive, but that's the usual way to go. The same thing happens with traditional vehicles, but this is in real time. That's it. I can send you a video because I'm not a specialist. It's a calibration of lenses is difficult, and you have a specialist calibrating lenses. But yeah, that's the process, more or less. Yeah.
Is it possible to switch different cameras?
That's a great question. No one asked me in the 2 sessions before. Of course, if the camera is not moving, it's pretty easy, because if it's not moving, it's basically the background, you know? So you have two cameras, no problem. But if the cameras are moving, it's very challenging, very, very challenging. Because the force perspective is based on the camera, on the position of each camera. So what happens if the cameras intersect in a point? What decision you will make regarding force perspective? Because one camera is here and the other is there. It's a trick. You can do that. You can calculate the optical illusion of two cameras joining together. But it's so computer intensive. It's very computer intensive. It's hard to do. It's very hard to do. You need to double basically the computer power. And you need to make a trick to double also the frame rate. So one camera receives one frame and the other camera receives the other frame. I don't know if you like interlacing, what we call the interlace. We call that phantom track also. You have one track of what you see for one camera and one track for the other. So you have a lot of challenges with that. Usually, even in Disney, because we had one of the main directors of photography of Disney like 3 hours ago here, because we're planning a production here with him. He was the main photographer of Black Widow and of Agent Carter and the new series that's coming from Disney Plus, etc. And it's very funny because we are planning this music video and then a movie. And the new movie is his movie, personal movie, indie, low budget trip. But he's so spoiled, and he asked me the same. How about in the music video? We have two cameras with the how can I do that in Toronto in Disney? Yeah, your budget is $180 million for your movie, you know, and here you have $3 million. So, oh yeah, I'm spoiled, he said. So it's challenging. Even Disney, he says that for him, even for him with $180 million, it was really challenging to have two cameras in virtual production for Black Widow. So yeah, not advisable for medium or low budget movies. Let's stick with one camera. Of course, again, if the camera is not moving, it's totally doable because it's just like that. You're pointing and you have another camera here in a different focal length. That's it.
So what is the instead of parallel?
It's exactly the same. You have perspective.
So like I cannot do like dolly in or dolly out.
No, yeah, you can do whatever. I can do handle and go inside and out. I actually, I will do it. I will see how we will do it just right now. Let's do it now. Help me, guys. Yeah. She's like scared. Yes. Okay. No. Sorry guys, I cannot remove the plate because it's so heavy. They needed to fix
That's
it.
fine.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. What we can do, so you can see the force perspective, is remove just. Vamos a quitar nada más esto para que vean. This is not in the right moment. Okay, hi. I will throw this. how the perspective moves. Start with the second. So we have the table, the camera. Okay. Boom. Are you getting the data?
Well, we're disconnecting that, is it possible to talk a little bit about the method by which you're syncing everything?
That's a good question. The syncing of everything, and this is to, of course, synchronize the refresh rate of the camera with the refresh rate of the wall itself is through a Genlock. The Genlock is a time machine that is like the director of the orchestra, and it directs when each part of the electronics begins to play. So the name of that is a Genlock. And unfortunately, not all Genlocks work fine with virtual production. No, not all Genlocks are compatible. So there are some brands and models and makes that works better than the others, and usually are on the expensive on the expensive side of the equation. I have good news. The new LED walls like this one and the new brands from 2024 and newer, they have a much better refresh rate. And when you match that refresh rate with cameras with global shutter, then you don't need Genlock in the standard frame rates, like 24, 48, and multiples.
But if you were to do two cameras with the phantom sync, you would still need Genlock.
Yes, of course,
Okay.
huge,
And
huge need.
is there a particular brand that you recommend that can do?
I don't have them in my mind because, again, Roman, the engineer, I remember an Aja one, and Blackmagic doesn't work right now. They promised this year the new model will work.
I didn't even know Blackmagic did Genlock.
Yeah, they have a couple of models of Genlock. There you go. So if we move, sorry about the cables. Oh, it's everyone is against us right now, but you can do dodges. And do you see the little change of perspective when I move? Like dolly in, dolly out. Do you see it? So that's part of the force perspective, you know. So you can move. Let me simulate with my hand like handheld. Imagine that the camera is here. Look at the reaction of the handheld. You see? Yes, that's it. You can use whatever camera you want. Yes, yes. And I need to stress out, not every camera is great for LED walls because of the scan rate. The scan rate, the refresh rate. It's very similar when, I don't know if you tried before to shoot a screen, and then you have several problems with the screen like this and little artifacts. This is 10 times worse than trying to shoot a traditional screen. So there are cameras better suited, very designed for it. My recommendation of cameras in the higher end, of course, all the new Arris works great. The Venice 1, Venice 2 works great. FX9 works great. And in the indie side, Blackmagic works amazingly, especially the new ones. But the better of all, if you don't have any problems with syncing, because it's global shutter, because the color science is designed for handling the color science of screens is Red. Red is the only one that designed the new cameras around virtual production solutions. And I mean the Komodo, that's affordable, and the Raptor X series.
Sony F55 and F65 have global shutter too, those are probably fair.
That's a good test. They're fairly old cameras, but beautiful cameras. I shot with an F55 back in 2013, I think.
But still,
Beautiful cameras.
4K,
Cinealta.
16-bit RAW.
Beautiful
global
cameras.
shutter.
I love Sony. And if I don't remember if it's global shutter, but if it's global shutter, it should work.
And-
That's a very nice test to do here.
Well, if you're interested, I own two F55s and two F65s.
Oh, I would love to test those because I love the old Sony cameras.
The 65 though is 8K 16-bit RAW,
Wow.
despite being a decade old, and also has a global shutter.
Yeah, Sony is amazing. And actually it's interesting because it's so amazing, it's 10 years old, and they needed to, they needed to upgrade and get the color science relatively in the upper side with the Venice. But I'm really curious about the actual color science of the Cinealta.
They do have the same color science now. The 55 and the 65 both have the same S gamma 3.
That's so interesting because you can get very affordable F55s now in eBay.
If you want to test them, just let me know.
I would love to. I'd love to for sure. Yeah, that's a great idea, man. Yeah, never heard of that before. That's a great idea. Okay, so yes, of course. The lens?
Just like the way you move it, it's already deciding, is
It's a 2055 zoom.
so now.
That's all. Yeah.
So which is-
Recalibrate. The name is recalibrate.
the perspective?
The perspective will be exactly the same. The calibration is a little bit of to match the aberrations in the sights. And the distortion part of it, not the perspective.
So what?
Actually, to be honest, almost no one noticed when the mortals, 90% of the audience mortals doesn't notice if you don't calibrate the camera. Because it's just what happened. Actually, this is not calibrated. It's actually what happens with the distortion usually on the sides. And you can see it. I don't see any distortion. Yeah. Right.
It's gonna be a huge difference.
No,
I mean, the perspective or from the.
no, because he will match it. If you change, then he will input like you go for 35 millimeter, he will input from 35 to 50, he will input 50. And then I will change to 75. He has all the libraries. So he just push the button and 75 millimeter. 80 millimeter. 125 millimeter. That's it. But that's not calibration. That's setup. Is different. Same thing, no problem. Yeah, you have a lot of libraries for perspective. Calibration is different. Do you understand the difference between setup, the focal length setup and calibration is different. It's very different. Okay. But as I said, in my experience, we tested a lot of lenses and setups, and 90% of people doesn't know the calibration. Actually, it's funny because, it's already calibrated, looks great. We didn't calibrate it. So no one knows. To be honest, the directors of photography, they do notice. They say, it's kind of different here in the side. Really? Yeah, it's calibrated. So, but the directors of photography are very well trained for that. So, yeah.
It would be quite critical for anamorphics though, right, where the out of focus elements would need to do the vertical stretch.
But remember that you have an optical background. So
Yeah, but for deeper,
Yeah,
focus, I mean,
yeah, for the focal length, totally, yes, absolutely. That's a good point, yes. Yes. Okay, so now we will discuss the workflow, and I want you to see a video about the workflow. This video is about a study case where we use for the first time this workflow. And I will explain. And this is really, really exciting because we got into a bid for this production company named Blackbird. Blackbird was a production company behind Long Legs last year, and I know you're familiar with Nia, who was Academy Award winner, I think. Annette Bening, Jodie Foster, a swimmer in Netflix. It was a great movie in 2023, I think. And before that, they did an amazing movie that I love named Imitation Game. That's the story of Alan Turing. I think it's Benedict Cumberbatch, right? So it's a very important company. It's a very important production company. And the thing with them is that the director and the director of photography didn't want to shoot against green screen. They hate it. So they have so many problems. So they actually explored the idea of having practical fire. The name of the movie is Train Dreams, and it's about forest fire, huge forest fire. And so the forest fire was the main element of the movie. And at first they explored the idea of make that practical, like with gas and actual fire in a huge set with, a lot of art production and design, production design, and this and that. But of course, when they went through the numbers and taking, calculating the insurance fees and the security fees of using actual fire with actors such as Felicity Jones, William H. Macy, Joel Edgerton, high-end, stars. It was so expensive. So the director of photography, Alfonso Veloso, he was a little bit familiar because he never worked with full 3D virtual production before, but he was a huge fan of making up behind the scenes of virtual production. And he proposed the director, how about virtual production to solve this problem? And the director was a little bit scared about that. And he said, well, let's hire a couple of companies to bid with proof of concepts before we jump into that solution, because they want to make sure it works. So yeah, we got into the bidding of that, and we were a little bit pessimistic because we were against huge VFX companies in Hollywood. Fortunately, because of this workshop that I will explain, we won it. And you will see the piece just right now.
I'm Clint Bitley, and I'm the director of Train Dreams.
Talk to us a little bit about the movie.
Train Dreams is a movie based on the novella by Dennis Johnson. And it stars Joel Edgerton and Felicity Jones in a story about, it really tells the story of this one man's life, Robert Grenier, who's a logger and an itinerant laborer who lives from, the early 1900s until the 1960s, and sees the world just completely change around him as his whole industry of logging and kind of expanding westward, as all of that becomes mechanized and industrialized, and he kind of feels life pass on beyond.
Okay, well, I want to talk a little bit about the story of Train Dreams project. It was an amazing project. And I received this call from Bosler Studio. And after this call, they say they had this very interesting project regarding forest fire. So they asked us if we could do virtual set assets and in camera VFX about this huge forest fire. We flew to the actual studio to work directly with their rendering nodes and media servers The problem was that we didn't know exactly why, but hours before the shooting, the system stopped working, totally, absolutely.
What's happening, Sebastian? Why is not working?
Just press enter and see it. When we're inside, there's that. I was just about to say, no, we get it.
Pues como son tecnologías nuevas y como todo va muy rápido, muchas cosas han salido mal en el proceso. El tracking no funciona, el 3D no funciona, ¿no? El programa no corre, no carga, se va lenta la pantalla, no prende la pantalla. Van muchos problemas en el proceso.
And we were trying to figure out what the challenge, what the problem was.
Every project has some unique issues. In this particular case, a recent project, we had some shooting at some special frame rates, which are really interesting. And so, you know, we're rapidly adjusting. So it might be an Unreal Engine, it might be exporting very, 12K plates, but being able to do that rapidly on the spot. So having their team critical part of the process with integrated here at every stage is vital. So it's the previs, it's the creating the worlds, it's the going back and forth, the iteration, and then being on set, running the wall, the volume, and having the artist here that can demand to whatever the director needs.
Parte de mi trabajo como técnico es solucionar esos problemas y hacerlo de la manera más eficiente posible todo aquí. Cómo generar estos escenarios fotorrealistas lo mejor posible, pero que también lo aguante la computadora y que todo esté corriendo en tiempo real, ¿no?
So finally, our amazing researchers and operators found the solution. They did this magic with a little bit of coding and a little bit of resetting of stuff. And at the final hour, at the final moment, we got it.
It worked. It worked.
Guys did an awesome job. I mean, it's, provided the CG environment in Unreal, CG renders that you're able to throw up there. This was the right decision to go this route for this project.
Just been a great experience working with iDigital, and they're great collaborators, and every step of the way, they were able to take direction and really hone in specifically on what our director's vision. It's been great.
Everybody, who's been helping us from both companies has been so wonderful and so collaborative and helpful to the process. It's just been incredibly easy and wonderful experience.
Hi, it has been such an extraordinary experience working with each screen. It makes our job so much easier. So much of our imagination is done for us because it just is, you're not acting for nothing. So it's been such a tremendous experience, and I think the effect is going to look fantastic with the finished film for Train Dreams.
Oh, it was awesome because it was our first Hollywood level movie, and it was total and absolutely success.
We were talking to a few different partners, potential partners, to see who could create that content for us. And as soon as we got the first tests, even the very rough tests from iDigital, those tests were just head and shoulders above anything else that anybody had sent through. And it was just very clear immediately that these were the people to work with.
So I will explain the workflow that we use for this production and the fortunately good results we got because of that. So let's go to workflow, please, Sergio. Thank you. Okay, here's the workflow, and we begin the workflow with the traditional AI storyboarding, the concept, make painting, shot list, generation. It's very important and very advisable to have high quality previs and tech list. Fortunately, you use the same tool for previs as the same tool for production, and that's Unreal. Unreal is our main software, to display that. Unreal Engine. I don't know if everyone's familiar with it. It's pretty famous. And we do the previs with some tools and apps designed for Unreal. One of them for previs and tech list is amazing. It's named CineTracer. Very advanced. And after CineTracer, we export from CineTracer to Unreal to work in actual production, for camera production. So after previous and tech vis, we go to pattern. This is very, very important because I will share a secret sauce. The common sense and the usual way to go in a virtual production workflow is you hire your virtual art department that are the CGI artists, the modelers, the guys that do the textures and all the digital part. So you as a director producer, hire them and say to people like Sergio, please do me a war zone or do me design and build based in this concept spaceship or this and that. So they do that. And after that, traditionally, in common sense, you hire the production designer, the art department, and you tell them, see this environment that Sergio did and the team did, let's do the foreground, the physical part of it. Because you need a foreground, as you saw. You need a physical, practical set dressing. So they usually base their building, their physical building, the physical construction of this set on the renders and the 3D environment that the BAD created. That's a mistake. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but the way we do it is we hire first the practical art department before all the digital guys begin to work. And this is the Disney way, the Lucasfilm way, Star Wars way to do it. Because we got this advice from Scott Ross, he's one of our advisors. He's in our advisory board. And he was the president of Lucasfilms for 9 years. And he was the manager of ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, that's the main VFX company in the world, for 8 years. And he was the founder of Digital Domain, and he's the partner of James Cameron. So he's a VFX guru. And he told us, be careful with that. Let's do it the Lucasfilm way. The Lucasfilm way is the priority is always the physical one. And George Lucas learned that, in the hard way. Remember the Star Wars, episode 1 and 2 and 3. He prioritized CGI before physical solutions, and the results are not, So they went back to physical solutions before digital ones. And Mandalorian does a lot of that. They do models and they do even stop motion, and they digitize that and put that in the digital world. And then that's a great way to go. Why? Because when you do the physical part and you scan, you get a lot of detail. You get weathering, you get the textures, the colors, because you're scanning. You're scanning reality. The disadvantage and the problem with that is when you scan, all your assets, because are so detailed, are huge. Maybe you know that. So you need to do a lot of optimization if you go and you decide to go the scanning route. Okay. So as you see there, we have another department that's named scanning, and we have 3 techniques for scanning. Photogrammetry, NERF, and Gaussian splatter. I will elaborate on that, and I will give a couple of examples. And after that, then you involve the virtual art department, the CGI guys, after that process. And you see the loop there. A lot of interaction between the physical guys and the digital guys. They need to work together all the time. Okay, and then we have the department of metahuman and creatures, and it's separate. Because remember that organic creatures are very different to inanimate objects. So you should be aware of that. Virtual art department for creatures and organic elements should be a totally different discipline than the virtual art department for objects, inanimate objects, because it's very different. It's very difficult to scan organic elements that moves. It's very difficult. And it's fairly easy to scan inanimate objects. So that's another thing to consider. Then we have the pre-production of the practical special effects. You need to decide what part of your special effects will be digital and what part will be physical. And that's very important from the beginning. Because, of course, VFX and special effects are challenging. So that's very important to decide that. And then you go to, well, all the layout, and the layout is like putting together what we call then the kit bashing of things, putting together the different elements that you design. And then after you put together the elements that you design in a set, in an environment, digital environment, you go to lighting. Lighting is very, and then you have the director of photography, you have your practical gaffer, and also you will begin with practicals, with the physicals, and then you go to work with the digital. The digital gaffer will emulate your decision of light design. For instance, if you as a director of photography and as a gaffer, like for that scene, sky panels from Mary, or a couple of Fresnels, or a couple of, panels, or a couple of Pinoflows, or Mimic, or any brand or make of light fixtures, then you will ask the digital gaffer to emulate the response and the characteristics of that light inside the digital board, inside of it. Okay? And again, you work with that. And then in the middle, you have a technician named the DMX technician. The DMX technician can sync. We're trying to do that over there. You see a lot of cables. And you can connect all your lighting to Unreal. So with a button, you can change all the characteristics of your lighting. Okay? Then there's the sum of all those disciplines. And finally, in the last layer of the production, you have the practical special effects working with the in-camera. And it's exactly the same as with practical effects. We usually scan the special effects. And that was part of the secret sauce of Train Dreams. Instead of using a lot of simulations, because the fire simulation inside Unreal looks like game-ish, looks like a video game, not real. And the best way to go is try to shoot actual physical fire, even in scale like this, with a couple of tools like gas pipes and all that kind of stuff. And after you shoot that in slow motion, at 120 frames per second or 60 frames per second, then you use them as elements inside of it. And it looks pretty real, more realistic. And you have much different characteristics of the fire. For instance, when you have a tree and forest fire begins, you will see a line of fire on the side. And you won't see like a torch. It's a line of fire. And those details are the ones that can, help you win a bid, such as Train, because are the details, the realistic details that happen in actual physics in the real world, And of course, the scanning and the high quality of the trees is very important, because our competition, the comment of the VFX supervisor, director, and director of photography said, their results were very game-ish, and the result was very realistic, and that's what everyone wants. So, and of course, the other challenge is to optimize. It was a huge forest, and actually, Felicity Jones were running through the forest, and we need to have a lot of trees over there running at 60 frames per second. And actually, that was a problem we had. The director of photography wanted slow motion, wanted fast motion, over cranking and under cranking. And it was challenging in all ways, optimizing to, try to have more frame rate to match the slow motions, and then changing of sync, because when you change the frame rate, the sync changes. So the Jamlock didn't recognize like 6 frames per second. They don't recognize that, right? So they needed a lot of stuff to make that happen. So that's the drama you saw one day before. And unfortunately, it was a decision, it was made like 2 days before. I want to flexible over crank and under crank. Really now? Of course, it was option because we have the option of going to standard slow motion, and I mean 48 or 60 frames per second. That it was easy for us. And then in post-production change with software like Twix, or there are a lot of softwares to change the cranking in post-production. But the director of photography preferred to do it on set in the time. So fortunately, we were able also to do that. And he was really, really happy. So after the decision of special effects, then you go to the configuration of the element. And why is after that? Because maybe you as a director, anyone is a director here? No? Okay. If you're a director, maybe, or maybe a director of photography, you change your mind and maybe you want a shot that's down here and it's looking up. So you need to reconfigure the screen higher. Or you want reflections. You want to do a car processing. You have a car, a running shot, and you say, you know what, I want more reflections because I want to move my camera more. Then I will put sidewalls and I will put, install a ceiling so we can have more reflections. So that part is the reconfig of the LED pad, Then you try after that reconfig, you will try the camera, of course, to match that reconfiguration. Everything works in your camera. And then rehearse, adjust, rehearse, adjust, rehearse, adjust. And meanwhile, you will have your DIT, everyone is familiar with DIT, the color technician, working with the real-time color technician. The DIT will work with the actual sensor of the camera, and the real-time colorist will work with the processor of the screen. So it matches, of course. And after that, you have the sequence manager. The sequence manager basically is like the guy that supervises that everything you are doing it will match the design of your sequence based on your storyboards and previews. Okay, so that's basically the work we use. Any questions? No?
So all the models in the background is matte painting?
No, that's another technique. No, the matte painting is another technique. Is when you just need like a plate that you don't need full 3D.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the traditional matte painting when you don't move the camera and you have this.
The background of the models, the 3D model,
We call it 3D environments.
the 3D environment,
Yes, 3D environment.
and you have an engineer to do that, all of them. Yeah, but like,
Right? One of them, we have several, but he's one of them.
yeah, so, for example, if I'm a customer,
Mhm.
and, with DP, I want to shot with something like unique, I've never seen it before.
Mhm.
I've shot with someone already made, right? So, I give you a concept.
Yes.
And then you guys gonna make a 3D model for this product. Is that-
Yes, yes. It depends on your vision and your budget.
Yeah.
If you want very high quality model of your environment, I will advise to model it first physically, with a physical model, with an architect. And after that, mock-up, very beautiful detailed mock-up, like in, I don't remember the models of Blade Runner, for instance, or Star Wars, great models. Then we scan that, or parts of that, that the process of that is kit bashing. Kit bashing is the term of like you're playing Legos and then you can like do your model in parts, different parts, and then we can glue them together in digital. That's a better way to go. It's kind of complex, but yeah, that's my main advice. If you don't have that much money and the environment is not that difficult, then we can go straight forward to CGI directly for him to design. The other thing is that usually them are all every day doing libraries, right? Different techniques of libraries for all kinds of environments. Because if you design, for instance, a stereo environment as the one you see, you can use part of that. For instance, you saw the truck right there. Remember the pickup truck? You can bring that pickup truck to a forest, you know? So you can mix and match whatever we design. Because you imagine a digital warehouse where you have all kinds of furniture, props, you know, elements, and we have a lot of foliage, and we have a lot of trees, and we have a lot of stones and deserts and a huge life. And I will show you the actual website where we have this catalog. And you say, well, there are a lot of libraries in Unreal. The problem with the libraries of Unreal is that they are designed for gaming. So they are between 2K and 4K, and they are not optimized because you use a lot of tricks. I don't know if you're familiar with, the name of it is DLSS, right? The artificial upscaling of NVIDIA. And those techniques doesn't work with this size of the screen. So the optimizations you read that are designed for games, such as DLSS, such as Lumen, such as Nanite, and all that kind of very, very nice techniques, most of them doesn't work for virtual production because because the camera is getting into, and you notice the artifacts, the problems. So if you are a gamer, you don't notice. You have a small-ish screen, and you're concentrated on winning, and the little details doesn't matter. But in filmmaking, it matters a lot. So yeah, okay. So any other question before we go? I want you to show you a company move. We will do a company move. We will move from a war scene to a museum. And this museum, answering your question, it was a challenge because this museum was built from the ground up without any scanning because it was a challenge. I don't want you to scan anything. It was a challenge for my people. And I want photorealistic results. And then we will see exactly the opposite. I told them, I want you to scan everything so we can compare the results, okay? Company move to a museum. Yeah, do you think, can we turn on those lights in white, please? Daylight? Daylight, please.
Just the middle one or?
Three of them might work, yeah. And then let's kill this. I don't know why this is in the. Okay, let's do the museum, my dear Sergio. Appreciate it, thank you. So, as you can see, we did a pretty fast company move. We just tweaked a little bit of the lighting, of course, not perfect. But we need more video. Can you move that, someone can move that more in front of that. More. There. If you need to do a jump shot or something like that, you, no, I advise to set dress the floor. You know, physically. Take everything a little bit to the back. Yeah, everything, like. Okay. More or less, we need a little bit more feel. Can we, put that, light little closer to the actors, please, someone? In the front and closer. Appreciate it, thank you, that's very much nice. Yeah, closer, even closer a little bit. Oh. Yeah, it's okay, it's okay. Good enough. Oh, appreciate it, thank you, you're the best. Okay, remember, it's just a demo proof of concept, so it's not perfect. So now we move and you will see the perspective. Okay, and 3, 2, 1, action. Yeah. So you can see the perspective works fine. The museum is very high quality. And we can play, of course, with the zoom even. And it will react pretty well to zoom. I'm sorry, I'm not a very good operator. But I'm doing my best. So, of course, if I tilt up, my limit is over there, and then I can tilt down, and it will work. I can play with my zoom, of course. And it's working. Oh. There we go. And then let's, Sergio, let's move closer to the painting on the back. Yeah. So she will. That's another trick. You can use a treadmill to do that trick. There you go. So, of course, we have another shot here. And the perspective looks amazing. She's appreciating all the art around. And that's a little. So, of course, this solution is very interesting because building museum settings is expensive, and of course, renting museum hall is very expensive. So this is a very interesting solution. So now let's go. This was everything was done. Can you move around, please? Everything was done from the ground up. This museum doesn't exist. It's based on a little bit on El Prado and a little bit on of course, Louvre, but it doesn't exist. That museum is generic. And all was done, of course, the only thing that was scanned was the paintings. Besides the paintings, everything was built from the ground up, even all the frames. He's very, very proud of his frames because he used ZBrush to detail. Can you show off one of your designs, beautiful designs of the frames? Model. The statue, it was modeled, it wasn't scanned, and it's really, really good with ZBrush, right?
Yes, ZBrush.
He's so proud of his work. Yeah. Beautiful. Congratulations, everybody. It was a great work, architectural work. And yeah, the plus for second. And we will go to exactly the opposite technique. It's full scan of a place. This is, it's a coffee shop in Tijuana, very interesting coffee shop named Ali Coffee Shop. And it's a very interesting place of Tijuana. Of course, Tijuana is the happiest place on earth, as you know. And it was fully scanned. And the story is this, of course, we wanted to simulate dialogue. And usually when you have your indie film and you have a lot of dialogue and it happens like something like Before Sunset, remember that movie or something like that. Usually you have a lot of dialogues in different times of the day, in different days, you know. And the way to go is you build a set or you rent. Usually both solutions are on the expensive side because of course building is expensive and renting is expensive. The other way to go is to rent the place but just for 2 hours before they open. And it's pretty inexpensive to do that because if you don't affect their operation, you know, because if you rent it, they need to close the business for a couple of days, then it becomes really cheap to rent it. So I went over there 7 a.m. in the morning before they open. We scanned in 2 hours with a Lumix S5 and with a drone. And then we use a process named Gaussian splatting, and then we own the place. That's very important. So we were able to bring it to a control environment such as this. And of course, the sound guys love us because you struggle a lot when you're in location with sound, especially in dialogue, the barking of the dog, the horn of, people chatting around, and it's a sound nightmare. And when you're in a volume like this, of course, you have to import the sound. And that's another advantage of doing it. Okay. Julio, can you come a little bit, please? Okay. As you see, the lighting and the perspective is not perfect. Can we move a little bit the perspective, Sergio, I think?
Up and down.
Let's try down. Let's try up. A little bit more up, more. Think so. Not perfectly. It works. You also calibrate the perspective, putting a frame, digital frame, like a digital square, and then a physical square side to side. And then you match the side perspective. So you can see here that it's full 3D. The scan is full 3D. And the main difference is that how long how much did you invested in hours or days with the museum? Like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
3 people, right?
Yeah, 3 people.
3 people, 2 weeks. And with this, it took 2 people, 2 hours. So that's one of the main differences between the techniques. Do you see? It's full 3D. The problem with this technique is kind of this. This technique is named Gaussian splatting, and it's a tree. you don't have the actual full asset there. The asset is composed of what we call a cloud of elements. The problem with a cloud of elements is you're limited in the managing, and for instance, if you want to explode that, you cannot explode that. If you want to relight that, you need to do a lot of tricks. Usually, one technician will tell you that it's impossible to relight that, usually. But he's a genius, so he figured out how to relight that with a lot of tricks. But it's not optimal for relighting. The best option to scan with full control is named photogrammetry. The problem with photogrammetry is that it takes much more than 2 hours. Usually it takes at least 8 to 10 hours of scanning, and the post-processing of that takes like 4 days. And with that, the post-processing of that takes like 1 hour. So, you know, it depends what you need to do. So after that, I will show you the explanation, the detailed explanation of this technique in a video, okay? So let's run the video. Thank you. Okay, as you can see here, we have almost ready this cast scene in the morning. We are almost set with it. Of course, we are using very basic lighting setup, but it works. You can see here the parallax is working great. The background is hyper real. It doesn't splattering, and we have a couple of new extras out there. Our partners over there, of course, they're just work in progress. We have some glitches on them, as you can see, but it's just a work in progress. But we want to prove that there's possible to have extra. Also, I need to fix these because I don't have big enough couples over there, so I'm using C-stands. But it works, kind of works. Okay, so we have today a different setup. As you see, we have Magic Hour, very orange. The challenge here and the objective here was to change the lighting setup for the background. As you can see, because it's full 3D in the background, all the objects are full 3D. The light actually affects everything, even the extras. I have to mention that the extras are enhanced now. We don't have the glitches on the extras, the digital extras in the background. They are talking and they're working great right now. So you can see that the lighting is different. It's Magic Hour. And you can see even if you compare the shot with yesterday's shot, the shadows are different. And we did this because we want to demonstrate that it's full 3D. So it's working in parallel. And also right now I want to show you a little bit of the tracking quality of it. I will go handheld, as you know, handheld is one of the most challenging aspects of virtual production techniques of virtual production. Of course, I can change the focus length and I can do the zoom. And there's a very interesting thing happening here with the glasses of the actor. As you can see, the glasses reflects realistically the background. So that's very important because compare that to green screen and you have a nightmarish situation with glasses, or even with those kind of objects, like translucent objects. And as you can see also, the camera reacts, the tracking reacts pretty well to that. So I don't have that much of
stabilizing feature on purpose. So you can see that all the handheld glitches I have, it's also replicating in the actual background movement. So it's pretty realistic because the tracking is perfect. The only problem we have now, and this might be both a Jetlock problem and also a scan rate problem, is if I move, fairly decently here smoothly, I don't have any problems. But because my camera is rolling shutter and not global shutters, and the scan rate of the background is not calibrated or Jetlock, I can get a little bit of artifacts. I don't know if you noticed it, like little stairs, little lines. It's pretty difficult to see, but they're in the shot. It's pretty easy to get rid of them in post-production, even with the cable plugins, the cable erasing plugins, can erase those with just a button. But anyhow, we have those are. So you can see the reaction of the background to the camera movement. It's perfect, no problem at all. Looks like these guys are in the actual coffee shop. So you can imagine all the control you can have, because you can control all the lighting, all the shadows. You can even use virtual real-time extras like the ones in the background. Okay, I really like this. I want to show you how the setting is, and we have a few more elements that are kind of interesting. I have a little glitch I don't like, but anyhow, it looks a little bit like a little cabbage. One of the very interesting elements here is that if we have real tables and we have digital tables, those digital tables in the background were scanned from the actual physical one. That's very, very important. So behind the actress in the foreground, in background maybe, we can see another, behind Andrea, we can see another table. That's the, so we really like to have a night scene. It's a very simple lighting system, of course, it's just a proof of concept. It's really, really nice. And we have different kinds of shadows in the background set. As you can see, the paintings in the upper right have a very nice, smooth lighting. And actually, the Bali background, the Bali painting we have there, like totally match night scene. Do a little bit of hazy, so we can check out different more close atmospheric setup. Have a little bit haze in the environment, so it's a little bit more atmospheric. We can see. We can see in the left part here that we still have our meta-humans, our actors, and they're so this is our third lighting configuration, and as you see, the full 3D background made with Gaussian splattering is very flexible in terms of the ways you can change it and manipulate it. So I'm really happy what's happening with our tests.
Okay, guys, before we go to our final questions of the day, I want to do a little commercial. We will have in March 1 week workshop, and we will work with hands-on with all the processes we learned today, all the workflow. And the final day, usually it's a full day in Saturday, we film and produce with the full workflow an actual music video. So, and then we edit it and we have a final result with a music video. Usually our students, one of our students usually is a musician or has a friend or a sister or relative that's a musician. So, of course, one of the advantages is that we will have a full, very nice music video at the end of the workshop. This will happen someday in March. We're waiting for to have enough students to begin the workshop course. And I will show you the promo of that workshop. Okay?
Are you? Are you ready to lead the future of filmmaking? In a world where AI and virtual production are revolutionizing the filmmaking industry, don't let your profession be left behind. Certify yourself with the skills and expertise to thrive in a new era of filmmaking. Join our intensive workshop, where you'll gain hands-on experience with cutting-edge technologies like virtual production and AI, metahumans, and more. Dive deep into the full virtual production filmmaking workflow, all while working at a virtual production studio. Learn from Hollywood experts, including Gabriel Sebastian Reyes, a speaker at the Film Festival and Royal Television Society nominee. Gain the practical experience you need to stay ahead in this fast-evolving field. Don't just adapt, become irreplaceable. The workshop includes 4 days online and 2 days with practical sessions at Visu AI Studios in Anaheim, California. Don't wait for change. Be the one who leads it. How to become a virtual production super producer. Workshop by iDigital Creative Studio and Visuai Studios.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Any final question? TBD. We're trying, it depends on the number of the students because of, you know, the cost of the gear and of course, the time and stuff, but soon enough we will know. Yeah, what we mean with certification is we are part of SEMTI initiative of the virtual production initiative, and it's called BP Global. And of course, if you have our certificate, a lot of production companies will recognize you. Even the biggest ones, such as Lux Machina, and you're familiar with them. They did Mandalorian season 1. It was the main partner with Disney when all this began. And because we are part of this, of course, association. And of course, you will be part of the ecosystem regarding amazing studios such as Bosler and Trilogy, and of course here and in Mexico City, Studio Lem. So I will send you all that info, even the links with all the studios that are part of this ecosystem. And that's it, you know, with the certification, all these studios will know exactly what your skills are, what you're prepared for, okay? And the main thing is that you can produce virtual production. Produce is like organize logistics, understand all, and you can, of course, help setting up a complete team of virtual production specialists. Of course, in a week, you won't be able to develop a reel or this and that, but you will be able to organize all the process and understand perfectly the workflow you learned. Okay. Any other questions? You know, guys, I'm curious about what do you do exactly? So if you can present yourself, and I would love to know your background. I don't know.
I'm a director of photography, but I'm also a local 600 DIT. And I was actually the DIT for SIMPT's virtual production demo that we did, I think, last year.
Do you know Rick, what's the name? This tall guy with, he's always.
The bearded fellow?
The bearded fellow.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like 6 feet tall, yeah.
Yeah, I remember his name.
It would be a partner with us maybe here.
Okay, if you wanted DIT for it, I've got a full rig, you know, for live grading needs for all this. but,
Yeah, as you know, they're working hard with the new standards and with the good news.
Okay.
Great.
I used to do 3D, like, animation for architecture and everything.
Oh, that's very, very, related to. Yeah. What software do you use, like 3D Max?
Yeah.
Oh. So, how about Maya? It's very similar.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
I think it's good for doing some games. Yeah.
Great.
But 3D Max is easier, I think.
Great. And there was another guy, did he left already?
Yeah.
They live.
Let me, remember the name, yeah, I don't know. I was trying to get the name of.
Cause I have a question.
Okay, let's,
It's better for me to turn off.
really, okay.
Oh.
Let's turn